What's up, guys? Happy Tuesday. Gonna do our tip video for today. Took me all day to come up with something, and I really didn't come up with anything. And then I had a friend of mine message me that had bought a snake from me. Somebody else that bought a snake from me happened to post some updated pictures of it today. And my friend sent me a message, and he said, I have a weird question for you. And then he sent me that person's post, and I answered yes before he even asked the question because I already knew he was going to ask if I produced it, which I did. And it was also a sibling to one of the animals he had. So what he said to me was that, you know, he can always tell animals that I produce because there's a certain quality to them and a certain look. Now, in this case, as much as I appreciate that, it's not really my credit. The credit on that one, I can watch the dog in the background. Should probably take a poop for you guys. That'll be perfect. So I can't really take the credit because the two animals that I paired up were produced by somebody else. So even though I paired those two animals together, that's not really my eye that created that baby. That's, in this case, Kara at the blood cell, because Spot On and Electra were the parents for these particular snakes. And those are both snakes that were produced by TBC. So the point of this video really is quality in is quality out. And it's a topic that in other videos we've touched on and discussed, but I wanted to do a video just dedicated to that. And so here I have another snake from that line. Let me see if she will come out and play here. Don't be crabby. Really? Apparently she's going to be a little crabby. But this is a snake that is from the same pairing as those snakes. You know, I've done this pairing a couple of times, so I have a lot of babies. You guys have seen babies from that pairing on the channel in Astra, Callisto, and Orion. Those are three snakes that I have from that pairing. Plus, this is the only one I kept from the second time that I did it. I ended up selling my other holdbacks. Just unfortunately, sometimes finances say you can't keep everything you want to keep. And they're easy sells because these snakes, just this whole line, just everything it does is fantastic. Obviously the lighting in here doesn't do this animal any justice, but part of what sets these animals apart is just the saturation of color, the high color. She looks really dull in this video, but you guys have seen enough of Astra and Callisto and Orion to know the color that those animals possess, which comes from their mother, Electra. She has very nice sides as well, very nice color, very nice contrasts. Once it gets warm enough and it happens to be the right day, I'll bring her outside and do a video so you guys can check her out. She's a really cool animal. She's just not as apt to sit here. She will do it, but she's not a huge fan, so I'd rather not make her. Hi, can I help you? But the reason that I'm able to make animals like this is because I invested in quality animals. I didn't just buy, oh, I have a female, I need a male, and any male will do, or any female will do. I believe that I bought, I don't remember which one of those I bought first. I think I bought Electra first. And I had a ghost male at the time that I initially was going to use for some of my projects. And, you know, Kara had a conversation with me and basically said, I need to step up my game. And I bought Spot On for her, and she gave me a very, very fair deal on him, beyond fair, just because she knew I was very passionate about it and she really wanted to see my projects go to better places. So I'll always appreciate the fact that, you know, she did that, because I got that snake for probably half of what he was worth, to be honest. Especially for as good of a breeder as he was, and you know, up until this past season, every single Borneo ever that I produced was sired by him. He was just a machine. You put him with a female, he looked at her and she was laying eggs, you know, right away. So he was a fantastic animal, and he was really what elevated a lot of my projects and really helped me see what I could do with Borneos. And then everything that I've built since then is really around that foundation. Now, unfortunately, I did lose him in December. So that was a really tough loss. 2019 in general was a terrible, terrible year for me. As you guys know, I lost both my dogs, and I lost him, and he was really the pinnacle of everything that I do with Borneos. But fortunately for me, Orion, his son, bred this year, and those are the babies that are cooking now. So when those babies hatch this year, the clutch that's hatching in about 25 or 30 days now, that'll be something that's a lot more of my vision. Because Lilith is a snake that I picked up, 11 years ago now, or whatever it was. Not 11 years ago, 9 years ago. She's a snake that I picked up. I just really like the look of her. I have bred her before, and the babies she's had were really nice, but I bred her too spot on. Orion is a holdback with that high color from Electra, so I'm really excited to see what he does with Lilith. The wonderful thing about Borneos, though, is you really don't know. You put all this time in, you plan, and what comes out, comes out. But I have a feeling they're going to be some stellar offspring. And so I'll be excited to share those on the channel with you guys, because that's really, a couple of animals that I hand selected, and that's something that I really worked at. Obviously, I produced Orion, and then Lilith was the first Borneo that I bought when I decided to get back into short tails. So she's always been very special to me. But basically, you'll see all the time where people just want to pick up a male or a female because they have the opposite sex. And first of all, not everybody needs to breed. I mean, there's a lot to be said for just enjoying these snakes and keeping them. I think breeding's not something you should even be thinking about for the first 5 years, maybe even more, of keeping. I think you really should just get to know the snake, spend time with them, make sure that you're passionate for it, because once you get to a certain level, it really consumes your life. I mean, my life basically revolves around these guys. How I travel, when I travel, whether I go out and grab a drink with friends, everything. Especially traveling. If I have a girl that I know is going to be laying eggs and the eggs are due to hatch, I don't want to be out of town. I want to be home for that. So I have to plan my trips around that. And sometimes you plan and it doesn't work out. I had a couple of years ago where Ethel, most snakes give you eggs like 26 to 34 days post shed is pretty typical for short tails. So I had to go out of town. So I planned my trip to where I was leaving on like day 51, thinking it won't be a problem. Well, she held on to those suckers for like 52 days, and she laid them while I was away, which really, really stunk. I had to have somebody else come and pull the clutch, and they weren't comfortable taking the eggs apart, and a few of the eggs went bad and just took out a lot of them. I ended up with very few babies from that clutch. I think I ended up with 4, and the only one that I kept was Charlie Murphy, who I'm very fond of. But it stinks because all 4 of those babies were absolutely smoking babies. I can't imagine what the rest of the clutch might have looked like. So that was just unfortunate. But I'm going to put this one back. I got one more snake for this one. And then she's one you've seen as well. I don't remember the girl I just had outspin on the channel or not. She may have been in one video briefly once upon a time. But same lines here. I see the same thing with these guys all the time. I share a lot of these Sumatran short tails. And obviously you can see the ones that I have. Obviously I have chrome too, but the dark ones that I have are very dark. It's selective breeding. It's line breeding. It's finding quality examples and matching them up appropriately for what you're looking for. You might be looking for this contrast back here. You might be looking for the darkest head or the darkest body. In my case, I want the brown to go away. So snakes like this at this age that don't have really any brown, as I've said before when I've shown her, she has a little bit on her tail, but that's it already at this age. This is an animal that's a building block to where I want to go. So if I were to sell this animal, I probably wouldn't let her go for less than probably, $800 to $900. Nobody wants to pay that kind of money, but they want this quality. If you want quality, you've got to pay for it. And, there's not a lot of examples that are this nice out there. There's a handful that are available every year. And people happily pay that amount of money for them because they're hard to come by. Yes, you can cheap out and you can get a $300 one, but it's not going to look like this. Once in a while, you might get lucky, but typically that's not going to happen because usually people know what they have. But by the same token, you raise this animal up and you do intend to breed it, and you get an appropriate male for it that's of similar quality. A clutch of those eggs can bring in a decent amount of money. It certainly pays for the investment. Incognito, her mother was one of the best investments I ever made. Same with Tux and Sambuca. Those snakes have just knocked it out of the park. I wouldn't have the collection I had if I hadn't made those investments. And I spent a decent amount of money for them, and close to $2,000 for those 3 snakes. But they paid dividends, so much. One, I love all 3 of them. I adore those animals. I love spending time with them. I love the babies that I've produced. Just the babies I've produced alone, and the holdbacks I have Black Magic, I have Amina, I have this girl, I have a sibling, 2 siblings to her, a male and a female. And then I have Voodoo Queen, and I have Morticia, and then I have another dark girl that I held back from Tux and Sambuca that I had sold initially and then got back. Ended up buying that back. Then I have all the chrome head ones that I produce. So just holdbacks alone, the value of those animals alone is already probably 3 or 4 times what I paid for the parents, let alone all the animals that I've sold. Because with Sambuca, I've had 3 clutches, and Incognito, I've had 2. So that's 5 clutches of eggs. I don't know exactly off the top of my head how many babies. Sambuca did 19 one year, 20 another year. I got 11 the first time I bred her. And then Incognito did 14 eggs both times. I had 11 hatch the first year and all 14 the second. In the first year, I screwed up incubating, so I killed those 3 eggs. That was completely me. They would have gone full term. I just screwed up. There was a crack in my incubation container. It was losing moisture. I didn't realize it. I didn't check for a little while, because usually those things are sealed. You don't really have to worry much about it. And by the time I found it, they were all sunken in and dried out underneath. I was lucky to save the other 11 because all of them looked in rough shape. But needless to say, you figure 5 clutches of eggs, average, a dozen, that's 60 babies minus maybe the 10 or so I'm sitting on. That's 50 babies, even if you're selling them for $300. There's a lot of money there. But you spend a lot of money to do that. You spend the investment. You've got to invest in the right caging. You've got to heat them. You've got to feed them. You've got to clean them. You've got to take care of them. So you've got to be passionate about it. You definitely can make money with them, and that's where investment quality animals really help. If you cheap out, you're going to get cheap babies. You're not, maybe that's your goal and that's your thing, but I just don't understand why, if you have the option to make quality or make, stuff that's not, why you would go that route. And even pairing up nice animals, sometimes you get stuff that's probably not ideal to breed, but is great pet quality because it's got good lineage behind it. And, it's healthy, it's rock solid. Hey, Darla. So that makes for a good pet too. So just don't be cavalier. Waiting is not going to kill you. It takes 3, 4, 5 years, sometimes longer, for a female to be ready anyway. So you've got time. Another year's not going to kill you. If you have to wait, and don't purchase that cheap snake. Wait until you can afford the quality that you want. I see too often people regret the choices that they made because they pulled the trigger on something that was less than what they wanted because that was what was available. They didn't want to wait another season, or they only had $400 and the snake they really wanted was $600, but they bought this $400 one and now they're regretting it. It's not very often you see somebody make that decision and go, you know what, it was a great decision. Very rarely does that happen. So keep that in mind. If you want to produce quality animals, you've got to get quality animals. And even as pets, the more quality animal that you get, usually the better that experience is going to be. Especially if you're dealing with quality people, that's important too. You're going to get that mentorship, that help, the answering of those questions, the customer support. And those of us that make quality animals and care about that are going to stand behind those animals. So that's another thing to think about. So I know this video isn't exactly groundbreaking. It's really a lot of common sense, but it's amazing how many people just don't really put 2 and 2 together and don't go out there and make the right decisions. So definitely make the right decisions and you'll enjoy it down the road. If you made it to the end of the video, I will use this video to give away a couple of stickers. I'm not going to tell you how you're going to win these stickers. You'll just have to participate on the channel, and maybe your participation will enter you, and then we'll do some kind of drawing and pick a winner from there. All right. We will see you guys on Thursday with a Meet the Collection. I have no idea who I'm going to use right now, I will figure that out probably right before I shoot, because that's typically how I go, fly by the seat of my pants. And then Saturday I have an idea for a video if I get time. It's going to take a little bit of preparation on my end. If not, I'll have to throw something together for you guys then. Appreciate it. We'll see you.